All right, good morning. So here's your test. It's 20 questions long. It's all stuff that we went over. Excuse me, there's a hiccup. Stuff that we went over. It's only 20 questions long, so do your best. Remember to turn in your study guide. You can get 10 extra bonus points on your study guide. On your test by doing your study guide, so turn all that in. But yeah, here it is. So just like the other test, get it done, turn it in to me. And then after you get done taking your test, then all you need to do is I'm going to go over one section of notes today, no quiz or anything since you had a test. But make sure to do your vocab. You'll have a vocab quiz on Friday, so make sure you do your vocab. But let's go over these notes right quick, and then we can be done. So, chapter 27 starts one of the last, I guess, two places left to do. I don't know if we'll get all the way through it or not this year. But East Asia is the last one. So we just did South Asia. We did Southeast Asia, or the Middle East, or Southwest Asia, sorry. That was the Middle East. Then we just finished South Asia. That's India. Now we're doing East Asia. And East Asia is these countries. Now, usually we would label this on a map. Don't have a map. Don't worry about it. Just going to show you these. Here's the ones that we're going to be studying in this section. So we got China and Mongolia are the two big ones. Okay. Then you have Japan, the big island over here, North and South Korea, and then Taiwan. So those are the countries that we're studying this in South Asia. I know these are labeled, but don't worry about these. So China, Japan, Mongolia, North Korea, South Korea, Taiwan. Now, you can see the size of this. China is pretty large. It's about comparative to the size of the United States. It's even on the same parallel as we are. So if you look at a world map of China, it's on the same degrees lines as we are in the United States. So there's a lot of things that are kind of similar to the United States that we'll talk about when we get to climate-wise. But it's about the same size on the same parallel line. So, landforms. These are the mountains and plateaus. Remember, section 1 is always landforms and resources. So these are the mountains and plateaus. China, Japan, Mongolia, Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea, the countries. We already said that. Of East Asia. They do have some high mountains in the region that traditionally limited contact between people living in China and other parts of Asia. So Chinese culture was very set apart and didn't really intermingle like the Middle East and Africa and Europe all did. China was kind of isolated because of those mountain ranges. Traditionally, not anymore because of technology, but used to. A lot of China was very cut off from the other parts of the world because of the mountains. Some of these mountains, and I'm not going to pronounce any of these right, so if you speak Chinese, I'm sorry, but you have the Kunlun Mountains and the Qingling Shangdi Mountains that are there. We'll show you where they are in just a second. And East Asia also has some plateaus over here. So let's look. So here is India. Here's the Himalayas. Okay, so this is called the plateau or the Tibetan Plateau, the Plateau of Tibet. This is right behind the Himalaya Mountains. So remember, whenever India came and crashed and made the Himalayas, then it kind of flattened out this land behind it as well. Here's those Kunlun Mountains at the very top of this Plateau of Tibet. Okay, here's the Qingling Shangdi Mountains right here. And here's the Mongolian Plateau. The coast over here is pretty low-lying coastal areas. Mountains are more to the left side. All right. China also has a lot of coastline, and that's where a lot of their major cities are today, where the big cities are in China, that they're going to be on the coast. So you also have the Korean Peninsula, which is right here, North and South Korea. Used to be Korea, but then because of the Korean War, they're North and South Korea that we know them today. And then East Asia, we have Japan here, these islands, and Taiwan down here, another island. So you got peninsulas, you got coastline, you got islands. So look at the population density. This is population density map. I told you the more darker the color, the more people live there. So you can see most of the people live along the coast here or next to the coast. Not a lot of people live over here in the plateau of Tibet. That's because this is a desert. And some people live over here, but a lot of the big cities are over here on the side of China. They have three major river systems. So these are, when we talk about river valley civilizations, the early river valley civilizations, we talked about the Indus River Valley, Mesopotamia, the Nile River civilizations. The ones that in China that had a lot of early civilizations are these: the Huanghe, which is also known as the Yellow River, the Changjiang, which is also known as the Yangtze River, and the Zhejiang, which is known as the West River. I'll show you where all those at in just a second. The Yellow River is 3,000 miles long and empties into the Yellow Sea. That's why it's called the Yellow River sometimes. Then you have the Changjiang, is 3,900 miles long and empties into the East China Sea. And Zhejiang, known as the West River, is also flows south, connects with the Pearl River. So here's all those at. Okay, so you have the Huanghe, the Yellow River. It's kind of on top, flows into the Yellow Sea. You have the Yangtze River, a little bit longer here than the West River. You also have other rivers that we talked about, Brahmaputra and the Mekong, which we talked about when we talked about India, and we'll talk about the Mekong next unit. And then the last slide here is the resources. Natural resources and mineral resources are very unevenly distributed throughout East Asia. For example, what that means is that you can see a lot of the resources are over here on the east side, where coincidentally most of the people live, where most of the resources are. So there's not as many resources over here and not as many resources up here. And in this area, that's why those areas are kind of bare on the population density map. So they're kind of unevenly distributed. There are forests, lots of forests in East Asia. China also has a lot of coal, iron ore, and natural gas. Coal, natural gas, iron ore is this one right here, the little red things here, there. So they have a lot of that and a lot of natural gas you can see here. Japan has lead, silver, and coal all throughout here. Fishing as well because of the coastline. And water is used for hydroelectric power and transportation. So those big rivers, they use them for transportation and also hydroelectric power. We'll talk about in next class. And then people in East Asia also look to the sea for food, obviously seafood, because that is where a lot of coastline where the people live. All right, that's it. So remember to take your test, be done with your test, watch these notes, and you're done for the day. Thanks.